about related to, I realized I just finished, not just, but a couple minutes ago, several minutes ago, finished filming a video about social interactions during solo travel. And there's a really, really important thing to think about while solo traveling, and it's what you eat when you solo travel. Excuse me. Body functions over here. But that's actually a great reminder. So I have a number, or two big allergies. One is pineapple, and one is kind of random, I know. And one is wheat. It's not gluten tolerant. I'm allergic to wheat, so I react to it. And then I'm lactose intolerant, so that affects my social interactions. And when I eat and what I eat, I have to be very cognizant of, because kind of like I mentioned in the social interactions video, whether you watch that or not, and it's okay. I as a solo traveler, I have to do all of the interactions. There's no person to fall back on or rely on. It's just me. And since I do have these allergies and my body is sensitive to how much food I eat, I'm not a eating disorder kind of person. The closest I've ever gotten to that was extreme dieting when I was very overweight when I was in middle school, and I lost my weight through extreme self-determination, self-motivation to lose the weight kind of by summer. And I started it in January, and so by summer I got myself down to a healthy weight. And my doctors told me, this is extreme dieting, this amount of weight loss for this much time. It was something like 50 pounds over between January and summer, which is May, June. And so it was a lot of weight loss. It was extreme, but it wasn't unhealthy. It was just on the very extreme end of healthy. And so that I think it's good to know. At least I've found people like to know that about me. For whatever reason, I don't actually press that when people, but that people will ask me a bunch of questions about that. But yeah, so I am healthy. I can tend to be on the extreme ends of healthy. I have had too low of body fat, but for me, my body actually and I function better with too low body fat. And why am I getting at all of this right now? I'm bringing this up because what my body is composed of, what physical activity training I've been doing, what I eat before and during this solo travel affects my mental functionality, my mental health, my self-confidence and stuff like that when I'm solo traveling. And when I'm solo traveling, because I don't have anybody to rely on for the social interactions other than myself, it's just me, there is a bit of, I am on full alert 100% of the time when I solo travel. And so I need to be aware of if I've been exercising multiple hours a day and I go on a solo travel trip where all of a sudden I go from multiple hours a day to 0 hours a day, I need to take into account how I eat so I don't get into a negative mindset and that kind of thing. And because I don't want to be in a negative mindset for the quality of my solo travel, but I also don't want to be in a negative mindset for my social interactions. So that's something, your fitness level before and during the trip and after the trip, and eating habits before, during, and after are very important as a solo traveler, because if I eat too much, I can't go someplace and be like, oh, I feel bad. Can you interact with this person this time? Or can you check us into the hotel? I still have to do that. So I think actually that was pretty nice in Scotland. I ate maybe a little different than I would have because I couldn't eat too much, or I would just feel really, really bad. It's another way of saying you can't eat whatever you want. At least not in my experience. I can't. So instead of a you statement, an I statement. I can't eat whatever I want when I solo travel. I can't do that normally because my body will be like, whoa there. I can't eat too little and I can't eat too much. My body will react severely to either way. And so I think that actually, I love my body for that reason, is it will tell me when something's too much. Or too little, and then I'll eat more, which at least at this point in my life, no, in my entire life, it's been a very good thing. Binge eating hasn't really been a problem. I think when I get to a big enough intake, I kind of have to push myself to eat, which is like perfect kind of body reinforcement. I don't know what it is about my body that makes it that way, but for solo travel, that's really kind of a perfect self-regulation, self-control, self-discipline. That one is a bit more natural, and I've kind of fine-tuned it a bit for times when I'm not so physically active. And so it's superpower if you have that self-control and self-discipline and self-motivation to know and have those physical responses to when you've had enough food. And I would say that's something to utilize on a trip if you are, especially a solo travel trip where you look to do a lot of things and have a lot of different things to do. Not eating too much is huge for the social interactions and the quality of the trip in general. I did a bunch of driving, so if I did eat, I found, so there were I did a bunch of walking and I did a bunch of driving. Those were my methods of transportation on the ground in Scotland. And I found that the best thing to do if I ate a big meal, so I would typically do, I would buy groceries from a store, and then I would either do that for lunch and dinner, or do that for lunch and then go out for dinner. And typically the places I stayed at had breakfast, not always. Then I might have just bought something from a store or gone to some place like the Painted Rooster in Edinburgh for breakfast. But I didn't eat all 3 meals out, because I would try to do like 1,000 calories for breakfast, and then do a lunch and a dinner. And if I didn't have a big lunch, then I would do a big dinner. And so just kind of thinking of it, I had big meals when I ate, and that was good. I would feel a little weighed down, so I'd say, but not enough that it affected my social interactions. And so I found the best way to counteract having a big meal is to maybe not, well, and immediately. I did that a couple times where I would have a big meal and then I'd walk back to where I was staying, and or at least once I did that, or I would walk around a place after I ate, or drive someplace and go on a hike. And that was perfect. I find a little bit of movement for half an hour to an hour is all I need for my stomach to be like, oh, I'm okay. Or just lie down for a little bit, which I found to be perfect. The lie down. I did a handwritten travel log for Scotland, and I'll do that for each of my heritage travel trips. And so if it was multitasking, I let my belly rest, and I get to catch up on my handwritten travel log. So travel journal, I should say. And so yeah, that's just a topic that came up. How one eats matters, and even if doing a bunch of hiking, I would still say be cognizant of how much one is eating. That's my best advice. And it comes out, I found I had to be much more aware traveling as a solo individual about how what I ate affected me and that kind of thing, and being really in control and disciplined about what I ate so that it didn't affect my mental state or anything like that. Yeah, I didn't have problems like I said, my body does a really good job of self-regulating and not eating too much, so I didn't really have that problem. I did gain weight. I don't go on vacation to lose weight. I go to enjoy the place I'm at, and that kind of applies to hiking and stuff too. I'm in the outdoors, and if I'm focusing on losing weight and being in a calorie deficit and that kind of stuff, I'm just not going to enjoy it so much as if I'm fully nourished, not malnourished, and getting less nutrients than I need and that kind of my body needs and that kind of thing. So I'd say that kind of carries outside of travel too, is make sure to stay healthy. It's better to, in my experience, I have found it's better, what's my wisdom? From my experience, it's better to gain a few pounds and enjoy the place that you're at and the food and the culture that comes through in the food and stuff like that, and enjoy your experience and gain a few pounds. It's better to go that route than to get in a negative mindset because you want to lose weight and then don't lose weight, or you're just in a funky place because you are losing weight, and that is just a funk. So I guess it's practicing self-care and self-love and giving oneself grace. That's kind of the conclusion I've reached as to what makes for a zero negativity kind of trip. Tried and tested in Scotland and a few other individual tests, both like hiking in the outdoors and as technically backpacking. I lived out of a backpack in Scotland. So yeah, in both the kind of more civilization, social structures, infrastructure, and nature settings, I think being well-fed, well-nourished, having a good appetite, and a good appetite enough to stay well-nourished and well-fed and good energy levels can have huge, wonderful, and miracle-working effects on one's mindset and one's life after the trip has ended. But that's kind of what I found.